Welcome to the Global War Watch Network. We're diving into a really fascinating tech showdown today, pitting two very different military powers against each other. So, on one side, you've got China, this absolute giant that's really flexing its muscles on the world stage. And on the other, you have Israel, a tiny nation whose entire existence has hinged on being smarter, faster, and more innovative than its neighbors. This is so much more than just counting tanks and planes. It's a real clash of philosophies, right? You've got massive scale versus laser-focused innovation. The big question is, who really dominates? All right, so here's the plan. We'll start with the basics, the numbers. Then we'll look at their conventional forces. After that, we're jumping into the real heart of it, the tech battleground. And finally, we'll zoom out to strategy and see if we can come to a verdict. Okay, first up, let's talk about the fundamentals. We're talking about the raw scale of people and cash. And right away, the difference in manpower is just staggering. I mean, China's People's Liberation Army is the biggest ground force on the entire planet. They've got sheer numbers on their side. Israel, well, they have to play a totally different game, right? The IDF is all about being agile and able to scale up in a hurry. They rely on a smaller, professional core, but they have this huge reserve system that can be called up at a moment's notice. It's a completely different mindset. Now, this chart, it really tells two completely different stories. First, you look at the raw dollars. And yeah, China's spending is just massive, second only to the US. But then you look at that other column, the percentage of their entire economy, their GDP. And wow, Israel is spending a whopping 8.8% of its national wealth on defense. That is one of the highest rates in the world. It basically tells you this is an economy that's always ready for a fight, putting national security above almost everything else. All right, so we've seen the numbers. Now let's get into the fun stuff, the hardware. Let's see how these two very different approaches actually play out on the ground, in the sea, and in the air. When you look at air power, China is closing the gap, and they're doing it fast. They're churning out advanced planes like the J-20 stealth fighter at a pretty incredible rate. Now, there are always these whispers, and sometimes more than whispers, that a lot of this tech is, let's say, inspired by stolen US designs. Israel's strategy is different. They don't build their own fighter jets from scratch. What they do is take amazing platforms, like the F-16, and make them even better. They pack them with their own cutting-edge, homegrown tech, avionics, electronic warfare gear, you name it. It's all about maintaining that qualitative edge. And this right here, this is the perfect example of the whole dynamic. The Iron Dome system is pure Israeli innovation. It was created to solve a very specific, very urgent problem. But that incredible innovation also put a giant target on its back. Forensic reports suggest the Chinese state-sponsored hackers actually got inside Israeli defense companies and walked away with sensitive blueprints and data on the system. It's a stark reminder that this tech battle isn't just about who can build the better mousetrap, it's about who can protect their secrets. Switching to the naval side of things, China's ambition is just out there for everyone to see. Their navy is now the biggest in the world if you're just counting ships. And they're not just building small boats, they're building a true Bluewater navy with aircraft carriers designed to project power far from their shores. Their goal is pretty clear: dominate their corner of the world. Israel's navy? Again, it's a completely different story. It's smaller, highly modern, and built for a specific job: protecting its coastline and its vital sea lanes in the Mediterranean. It's not designed to sail across the globe. Okay. This is where things get really interesting, because tanks and ships are one thing, but the modern battlefield, that's increasingly being fought with code, on computer networks and in cyberspace. And this quote from the Rand Corporation really hits the nail on the head. China isn't just looking at Israel as a rival, they're looking at it as a model. They see how Israel created this incredible tech hub, this startup nation, and they think, hey, we can learn from that. It lines up perfectly with their goal of building their own high-tech defense industry from the ground up. And make no mistake, China is built for this kind of fight. They have entire branches of their military, like the Strategic Support Force, that are dedicated to cyber, electronic, and space warfare. They're known to use these incredibly active hacking groups, like APT-1, to go after foreign intelligence. And then there's this national strategy they call military-civil fusion. Basically, it means that any cool piece of tech developed by a private company can be scooped up and used by the military. It completely blurs the line between what's a commercial company and what's an arm of the state. Israel's setup is a bit more, let's say, organic, but it is absolutely just as powerful.
It all starts with these elite intelligence units in the military, the most famous one being Unit 8200. You can think of it as a super advanced academy for the brightest tech minds. And here's the kicker. When these young men and women finish their military service, they don't just disappear into the private sector. They go out and create it. They've founded hundreds of the world's top cybersecurity companies. It's this amazing cycle that constantly feeds talent and innovation back and forth between the military and the private tech scene.
But this close connection between the economy and defense creates some really tricky situations. Take this, for example. Chinese state-owned companies are building huge infrastructure projects in Israel, like the new light rail in Tel Aviv. The problem? The train's route goes right past the Curia, which is basically Israel's version of the Pentagon. You can imagine the alarm bells that set off for both Israeli and U.S. intelligence. It's a perfect illustration of the security headaches that come with being so economically tied to a strategic rival. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. How do these two nations play the great power game on the global stage? Well, their playbooks could not be more different. China, for the most part, steers clear of formal military alliances. They prefer to expand their influence using economic power, with massive projects like the Belt and Road Initiative. Israel is the opposite. Its entire security strategy is anchored to its ironclad alliance with the United States. The problem is that very relationship is getting strained because Washington is putting more and more pressure on Israel to back away from its growing business and tech deals with China. Yeah, this really sums up the tough spot Israel is in. They're caught right in the middle of a collision between their number one security guarantor, the U.S., and a hugely important economic partner, China. Figuring out how to navigate that rivalry, well, it's probably the biggest strategic challenge they have on their plate right now. But let's talk brass tacks. How good are these forces when the shooting starts? For all of its shiny new hardware, the fact is, China's PLA hasn't been in a major war for over 40 years. There are real questions about its actual combat experience. The IDF, on the other hand, it's almost always in a state of conflict. And that constant real-world combat experience creates a level of efficiency, adaptability, and know-how that you just can't get on a training ground. They are truly battle-tested. So, we've covered a lot of ground: the money, the manpower, the hardware, and the high-tech battlefields. It's time to try and land this plane. What's the final verdict? So, what's it going to be? Does the giant with its endless resources and manufacturing power win out? Or does the nimble innovator with the killer tech edge take the prize? You know, the truth is, there's no simple answer here. It's not about one being better than the other. It's a case of what we call asymmetric dominance. They're dominant in totally different ways. China's strength is its sheer, overwhelming scale, the number of ships, planes, and people it can bring to a fight. Israel's dominance comes from its efficiency, its combat experience, and its world-beating, cutting-edge advantage in very specific areas, like cyber and AI. And that really leaves us with the big question looking forward, doesn't it? As technology keeps blurring that line between a civilian startup and a military weapon, which of these two models is going to define the future of war? Will it be the country with the massive, state-controlled industrial base, or will it be the one that can innovate faster and smarter on a smaller scale? Thank you so much for your time. We'd love to hear what you think, so be sure to share your thoughts down in the comments. And hey, if you got something out of this, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Global War Watch Network. You can also join us on social media. All the links for that are right there in the description.